IVM.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of IVM Likes. My name is Abbas and this is episode number 140 something of IVM Likes. We are soon reaching 150, guys. That's
Actually, I think after the simplified guys who did episode 151, 152,
that's true.
150 part 3, 150, I think entirely IBM has lost how to count in fundamentally.
That voice you just heard is our esteemed guest, Utsav Mamoria, who very
esteemed.
subtly plugged another one of our shows, Simplified, which he's been a guest on 2 episodes.
4 episodes.
4 episodes, I apologize.
Yes.
2 of which I was a producer on.
Yes, he had
so
the
I remember.
unfortunate chance of doing that.
Utsav has his own show on our network called Postcards from Nowhere. So before I talk to you about that, Utsav, I also have with me Rutika,
Hi.
who's a regular on IVM Likes,
Yes.
and I also have with me a newcomer, debutante, Vinamr Kasana.
That's accurate. I'm very glad to be an irregular on the show.
And I'm really glad that you didn't mention my surname.
Rutika Yolikar.
It's the color yellow, right? Something like that.
It's a pun on, I mean, we've had your liquor jokes a lot.
bus
So
ho
yeah.
gaya hai. Every episode
Keep them
I do
coming,
that.
guys. Keep them coming. We
You know,
love
till
them.
you said it sounded like a very normal Marathi surname, but now it clearly has gone in the wrong space in my head.
Vinamr, what do you do at IVM?
I do partnerships and collaborations. So if you're a brand decision maker listening in, hit me up.
Nice. Oh, that sounded sexy almost.
Yeah.
It was a pickup line.
Yeah.
For brands.
Different kind of collaborations came into my head. Okay, moving on.
Utsav, tell us about Postcards from Nowhere.
Okay, so yeah, it's a short format travel podcast where I tell you one story every week. It lands on Thursday mornings. And it's typically from places where most people don't end up going. So it's about Bosnia, Armenia, China-controlled Tibet, parts of Indonesia. Yeah, a whole bunch of places.
And if you want to hear more about how Utsav got this idea, he's also on episode 453 of Cyrus Says.
Yes.
So check it out. And also the simplified episodes that I mentioned. Basically, आप IVM की website पे जाइए और उत्सव ममोरिया search कीजिए तो आपके पास एक लिस्ट आ जाएगी.
तो बेसिकली आई लुक एट IVM एज दिस धर्मशाला कि जब भी मुझे कुछ होता है ना चलो यहाँ चलती है कहीं ना कहीं तो ले ही लेंगे ये लोग बड़े अच्छे लोग.
Not to be confused with the place.
No, Dharamshala. Which is a very nice place to
It is
go,
a
by
nice
the way.
place.
Yeah.
So far, how many episodes have come out of Postcards?
So I believe we have about 6 episodes by now.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And you plan to do this on a regular basis?
Yes, I plan to do this every week, and I think we're in good shape. We have
Nice.
a fair bit of content already recorded.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I'm going to record again in a couple of days. So yes.
Cool. So you were on Cyrus Says, now you're on IVM Likes.
Yeah.
You were on Simplified. You have
Yeah.
your own show.
Yeah.
Are you planning to take over IVM slowly and steadily, each show at a time?
No, so see, my thing is I don't do non-profitable acquisitions.
Okay.
Right. अभी तो see unless you become Gimlet and someone acquires you
course,
तो बात
yeah.
अलग है तो
Sure.
feel अलग है अभी नहीं है यार.
All right, cool. So IVM Likes, in case you're listening to this show for the very first time, I'll quickly explain the format of the show. In the first half, we give you some cool pop culture recommendations, stuff we've been watching, reading, stuff we think is cool and we would also want you to check it out. And in the second half, we take one particular topic and deep dive into it deeply. And since we have Utsav with us today, we're going to be talking about travel in pop culture. Films, books, TV shows that you liked watching because of the travel aspect or that made you want to go somewhere because you saw them in a movie or read about them in a book. But before that, we'll start with the recommendations. So Utsav, what do you want to recommend to us?
Okay, so what I would do is something reverse. I would recommend something which you should not be doing.
Okay.
Okay. And that is try and understand what travel is from Bollywood.
Okay.
I will give you an example. We have a great guy whose name is Ranbir Kapoor,
Uh-huh.
who makes the same film since forever because he's always coming of age.
Right.
Right? वो बचपन से coming of age चल रहा है उसका अभी तक हुआ नहीं है लेकिन उसको हर coming of age के लिए ट्रिप करना पड़ता है कहीं पे. ठीक है तो this whole thing of that if you travel you will find yourself is fine but it is inherently problematic simply because just by going to a certain place you're
Right.
not simply going to change your perspective about everything. Your problems and your issues and any insecurities you still carry it in your head.
Right.
राइट तो ऐसा दिखाते हैं ना कि एंड हाँ एक और चीज है वहाँ पे एक लड़की उसको जरूर मिलती है वो लड़की बहुत जरूरी उसके ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन के लिए अदर उसका ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन नहीं हो सकता राइट सो डोंट गेट आइडियाज अबाउट ट्रैवल बाय वाचिंग बॉलीवुड फिल्म्स राइट दे आर जनरली क्वाइट शिटी
Right.
And
That's
they
your
will-
life recommendation.
That's a life recommendation.
What's your
Oh,
pop
wow.
culture recommendation?
Okay, so if I were to recommend a book,
Right.
I think one of the books which I would definitely recommend is the book called The Art of Travel.
Okay.
Okay, it's by this guy called Alan de Botton, and he has a fantastic YouTube channel called The School of Life.
Wait, isn't this the guy who also has a couple of philosophies on love?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. So there's on love, there's something on status anxiety and
There's
stuff.
a
So-
lot of essays also that he has
Yeah,
on
yeah.
different things.
On different things,
I'm
right?
the
And
only
he-
one who isn't aware of this guy.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Sorry.
It's probably an age thing, बस maybe. Senior producers के साथ होता होगा
You
ऐसा
just
ये.
okay boomered me.
Cool. So yeah, and I think
Good thing you didn't explain he has a YouTube channel. Abbas beta, YouTube is... नहीं, beta नहीं, sorry. Yeah, please continue.
no, Abbas, you are at IVM, ना? तो YouTube
I
पे तो
am.
show आता है, इसलिए you know.
That's
So yeah, and I think that the book is fantastic because it gives you a very, very simple but rather unique perspective on travel, right? Now, one of the things it says is that your source of happiness or satisfaction is always going to be internal, not external. And he says this is a beautiful example that he's out in the Caribbean with his partner, right? And he is literally in the lap of luxury, right? Everything conceivable luxury you could think of is there.
Right.
And he has a tiff with her. And because he's a tiff, his mood is so sour that all the luxury ceases to matter. Right? And that's when he says that, you're not going to get happiness by things which are materialistic. It's always those things which are within you which is going to give you happiness. And the same thing applies for travel as well, You can always say, yaar, acha, no, I want to go to Patagonia, lekin bahut mehenga hai, yaar, nahi ja sakte. Yeah, you can go to Himalayas and feel very similar things, right? It's not just the landscape or the place which makes you think a certain way. It's also with what lens you view things makes you think a certain way.
I actually, there's this one part of the book that I really, really enjoyed because it's about airports.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and that part, I think that one part is so poetic because I have never looked at airports as a space where you're just like waiting and nothing's changing. But at the same time, all those thoughts that come to your mind. And he actually highlights how anticipation of a trip works.
Yeah.
And yeah, so.
Sorry,
yeah.
just one line I remembered from that particular part. It's a very beautiful line. He says, journeys are the midwives of thought.
Absolutely, that line.
Yeah,
Oh,
right. It's the
God,
starting of the paragraph.
Yes.
And it's a beautiful, beautiful
Yeah.
thought, I think.
Yeah.
Journeys are the midwives of thoughts. Wow.
Right.
Profound.
In fact, I actually
It's the most profound thing ever said on IVM Likes, I think.
Oh, wow. Wow. I didn't know the benchmark was so low.
And here I quote things from books, and that is not profound.
No, it's okay. So what's the book called again?
The Art of Travel.
The Art of Travel by
Alan de Botton.
Alan de Botton. All right, cool. All right, that was Utsav's recommendation. So Rutika, what do you have for us?
So taking a clue from Utsav, and actually it's actually an extension of that book, I feel, in a way, is my book, which is Tramp or the Art of Living a Wild Poetic Life by Thomas Espedal. Okay, now this guy
Why are you
is...
speaking in gibberish, Rutika?
because this book is in another language and it's
Okay.
been translated
Oh,
by
thank
this...
God. I was going to language सीखो ही के लिए. क्या करा था IBM? पैसे तो मिलते नहीं है. हाँ, बोलो.
Hey, you can speak in Hindi in this shit?
You
Yeah,
can actually,
pretty
you can
much.
actually
Wow.
do
We
it in
already
English.
spoke like 7-8 sentences in
It's
Hindi
just dawning
already.
upon me.
Okay, so-
You were tuned out. You were like, Arey, kya Hindi? But anyway, yeah, Rutika.
So it's been translated by this guy called James Anderson.
Uh-huh.
And again, the book is not as much about travel, although the word travel is in the topic,
Title,
the
yeah.
title of the book. But it's actually about your internal as well as external journeys.
Okay.
So when you travel, there's a lot that goes inside your mind.
True.
And with the help, so this guy is like, the reason I connected with the book is because this guy can walk for hours together.
Oh.
And I love walking. I think
Okay.
walking is one of the best things that
Okay,
a person could ever do.
Okay, I'm bursting. Finish. I have to say something.
So in this book, he actually goes into the journeys of various artists and thinkers,
Right.
like Rousseau. There's also Kant, and they
Sorry, what was that?
Kant.
Okay.
It's
Immanuel
Kant.
Yeah.
Kant.
Yeah.
No, I just thought you...
Yes,
just
you
cursed-
abused.
You
And you have
cursed
to
Utsav.
beep it out.
But you're talking about the philosopher,
Yeah.
Kant.
So
Okay,
I
yeah.
thought Abbas was like trying to correct me by saying
No,
it's
no,
not
I'm not.
Kant. Okay,
Okay,
so
like, these older people who do
Yeah,
this, like,
exactly.
young people, they're like, yeah, you young people have to correct you and all.
Yeah.
No, I was like, Kant. I hung out with him. Go ahead, yeah.
So, he goes into their journeys, and one of the things that he says is, each of my journeys starts in my apartment. And so what he does is, he doesn't highlight exactly what you said, taking a cue from what you said, that a journey is not about going to Norway, Singapore or wherever. It's actually about those mundane things that go inside your mind.
Right.
When you're taking these journeys, because a journey is not transformative, not externally, but it's transformative internally in your head. So he highlights these things with the help of his stories about these thinkers.
Right.
And so it's basically like these two journeys that he highlights. One is the external one is the internal one, and it's a book that's very meditative. Like when you read it, it's a slow read. Okay, so you have to be very patient when you're reading it. But when you finish it, you're just like sighing.
Oh wow!
Because it's like poetry.
Oh wow!
I know you said very profound things about the book, but I still don't have this thing about, is it a non-fiction book or is it a fiction book?
It's not a fiction book. It is a non-fiction book because he talks about these authors.
Is it like storied non-fiction kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean it's a little like the Rebecca Solnit book that I recommended last time, which is gets into the philosophy.
I haven't heard that episode yet. So
okay,
sorry.
Go back and listen to
And
it.
are there elements of like what he does in the apartment to the precursor to his strips?
No, so it literally is like
what period of time was this book written in?
That I don't know.
Okay, but fairly recent, modern?
No.
Okay.
It's not. Again, like a few years ago.
तब तो अगर वो बताए भी कि जहाज से आप जाइए
नहीं, but ये थोड़ा सा
things would have changed by now.
Alan de Botton.
Alan de Botton की तरह उसका style है, which is very ऐसा. It'll be very ruminating. It won't be like he's not giving a biography of these people, but he'll give you these philosophies intertwined with what their creative process may have been when they're traveling. So it's
sounds very layered. Like
it is very layered. It's very deep. So when you're reading the book, try and read it when you're in a mind space where you can actually take that much depth.
Okay. What's the book called again?
It's called Tramp, or the Art of Living a Wild Poetic Life.
Okay, by
Thomas Espedal.
All right, cool. All right, that was Ritika's recommendation. Vinamr, what do you have for us?
So I'm from Delhi, and I really did not know much.
We're not going to travel
Delhi se hu,
to
I'm
Delhi.
not going to say that. So I've lived around and in Delhi for the last 18 years of my life.
Right.
18, and then I was abroad. But I lived there, and I had no idea about.
So you went abroad, but still you're choosing to talk about Delhi.
Yes.
Okay,
Which is the interesting
brave.
thing about this book, because sort of living around Delhi, the only narrative that you get fed about the city is whatever the dominant community, or let's just say the dominant tropes around caste or butter chicken or cars, like
or aggression.
Right, whatever. So you get those tropes, but I was surprised to find out that Delhi has a very, very rich history, and it's actually the only city in India that's been plundered and destroyed at least 10 times, and still has persevered through all of that. So the book is called The City of Jinns by this guy called William Dalrymple.
Oh, of course, yes.
I see that all of you know about it.
Yes,
I did not know about it, and I recently discovered it. And as soon as I moved to Mumbai, I was just obsessed with that book, reading about it. It's like, man, Delhi mein matlab maine ye sab explore kyun nahi kara? Right. So the way it is Dalrymple is a historian,
right?
But the way he writes it seems much more like a novel. It's not like he's citing something. He's literally passionate about the idea of just figuring out what the idea of the city is. So he's going and meeting eunuchs, right? He's going and meeting like Sufis and Pirs.
Right.
He's going to like the old excavations of the Mahabharata sites, right? And then he discovers that the whole thing about demigods was actually a bunch of people who were stuck in the Stone Age, because the excavation proves otherwise. And he talks about how the Delhi used to have a very rich, eloquent Urdu culture, and certain parts of Delhi are exactly preserved as they were back then in parts of Karachi now. So in metropolitan Karachi, there's exact people and families who moved from Delhi to Karachi, keeping intact, like let's just say if they were I don't know, like people who had like a thread business, an embroidery business, people who did calligraphy, all of those things are very much alive. And then in all of this, he's like the curious student of this city. As a Scotsman, he comes here. One of the things I was thinking about is like, he's a Scotsman. What authority does he have to come and talk about Delhi?
Right.
But throughout the book, he just dispels that. He's very much Indian. And there's also like these accounts of like earlier British officers. This is like pre-East India Company. who sort of came in and loved Delhi so much they started behaving like Nawabs.
Oh,
so you know,
okay.
like they had their own harems.
Right.
They had their call me like Nawab Fraser, right? There was this guy called William
right.
Fraser, right?
Right,
So
right,
he
right.
hung out with the more turbulent of Delhi's communities,
Yeah.
the Gujars and the Jats, had bigger beards just like them, made friends with them, and he would despise the.
He also sort of brings out those layers of Delhi which you talk about, and it's not just historical. I think it's even in the present.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
also a newsletter that I would slowly, very sneakily
Sneaky, yes.
recommend. It's called Chirag Delhi. Okay, and it's a blog. It's like a newsletter, so I think it'll come to your mail if you subscribe to it. It's a blog that kind of gives you different ways of looking at Delhi, a very poetic way of looking at Delhi, also in a way.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, so
Oh, and also there's one more thing I forgot. So since you're like, your podcast is around the idea of traveling the way you want, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure you must know about Ibn Battuta, right? There's so
Yeah.
many tropes about
Of
him,
course, of course.
right? So apparently this book has this thing with Ibn Battuta, who comes in as Tughlaq's Qazi, which is like Tughlaq's judge,
Yeah.
right? And Tughlaq is known as the emperor who was very narcissistic and tyrannical, and he started copper coins and beat the shit out of his populace, all of those things. But he really respected people who were foreigner officials, right? So he made Ibn Battuta his Qazi, the judge. Ibn Battuta took no cases for 4 years. All he did was get remarried and build a new house and spend his time just, like just doing like
Loitering
wild
around,
shit,
yeah.
right? And then Tughlaq, he lost his mind. He's like, okay, now I'm going to imprison you. And then one day Tughlaq is like, okay, now you're free. Go back to China or like wherever you're from. So like, I never knew Ibn Battuta was in Delhi, and he was like Delhi's, I don't know, like chief judge
Chief
for
Justice.
4 years. It's so crazy.
And the best part, he did nothing.
He did nothing.
Right? He absolutely did nothing.
Was it the best part?
No, I'm just trying to think that somehow feels very relevant to the number of pending court cases we have.
That's
This
true,
way,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying the judiciary doesn't work. I think they just have too much to work with.
The judiciary has an Ibn Battuta still residing somehow.
Oh, but the
again.
soul
the
is
spirit
soul
of
of-
the spirit of Ibn
Ibn
Battuta.
Battuta.
The body has died, but the spirit remains. So,
So City of Jinns is the book
Yeah.
by William Dalrymple.
Yes.
Nice, cool. My recommendation now sounds very fika and dry because it does not have any cultural richness
Okay.
that you guys have espoused.
It's okay. You will get us back to the average. We go for it.
I am recommending a documentary film I saw recently. It's from last year. It's called Minding the Gap. It's directed by this guy's first film. The director's name is Bing Liu. So have any of you seen the film Boyhood?
Yeah.
Right?
No.
Okay, so Boyhood essentially was a film where the director followed the life of a young boy for 12 years.
Okay.
Right? So it follows him right from the age when he was a little kid to till he becomes a teenager. And every year he used to meet him and shoot a few scenes. And then so you literally see this boy grow up. But that's a fictional film, right? Minding the Gap is kind of like the non-fiction version of it, where it's a film about three characters, three people, real life people, Bing Liu being one of them, him and his two friends who were massively into skateboarding as children. And Bing as a kid had this habit of just taking a video camera and shooting everything that they used to do.
Okay.
And as he grew up, he got more interested in filmmaking, so he kept shooting them throughout. So what you see throughout the film is these three young kids who are now young men and what happened in their lives. What's interesting is that this film is set in a very small suburb of Chicago. So these boys aren't very financially well-to-do.
Right.
Two of them are migrant. Bing Liu is a migrant. One of the friends is an African American, and one of them is white. So you get to see all three perspectives. The white guy becomes a dad at a very young age. At the age of 17, he has a kid he has to look for. Bing has all three of them. So it starts off as a cool skateboarding movie, and it would have been fine if we had stuck with that. But as the film goes on, it unfolds that all three of them have a missing father, and they're all looking for father figures in their lives.
Oh.
And what skateboarding gives them is that relief and that identity of being on their own, which they don't have because they didn't grow up. They didn't have normal childhoods, right? And that is contrasted with the fact that one of them is now a father himself. So in the absence of ideal father figures, how does a young boy take care of a child, keep a relationship together? And this is interspersed with the African American who, like I said, is not financially well-to-do. So he would be arrested for small crimes as opposed to his white counterparts. The migrant, there's a very touching scene where the director Bing Liu interviews his mother on camera and talks about his father who left at a very young age. So it's a very emotional scene. But throughout the skateboarding theme still resides. So he also takes you to the shop owner, to the shop where they bought skateboards. So the guy who runs that shop has seen this guy grow up. So the way he speaks about them, this way he speaks about his neighborhood is very touching, right? So it's almost like a slice of life kind of a thing. And the film ends on an ambiguous note, but it's very heartwarming to watch this entire thing play out. So check it out. It's called Minding the Gap. I have made this room very serious all of a sudden.
No, because not serious
Ritika,
as much as
film.
I think as introspective, maybe some sort
Not
of.
just that, I think
It's
I'm
very
amazed
poignant.
at how he boiled it down to that like in a nutshell. because
I've given a very brief synopsis
Yeah.
of what
A very nice synopsis, I thought.
yeah.
Yeah, you started off with like what seems like teenage rebellion to like
Yeah,
the
because
real
that's
problem.
the trajectory of the film. You see these angry young kids, and then you find out that life isn't hard, and they deal with it any way they can.
Right.
All right, cool. So that was my recommendation. Very quickly before we take a break, let's recap what we recommended. Utsav, you recommended
The Art of Travel by Alan de Botton.
Ritika.
I recommended Tramp or The Art of Living a Wild Poetic Life by Thomas Espedal.
That's quite a mouthful. And Vinamr.
Mine is smaller. I recommended.
Weed out
no.
that.
Hey, that's sorry.
You wanted to that one, dude.
I did.
We'll edit this and release it as an audio.
Bloopers. City of Gins by William Dalrymple.
Cool. And my recommendation was the documentary Minding the Gap. We'll take a quick break. When we come back on the other side, we will talk about travel in pop culture. See you on the other side of this break.
Hey everybody, welcome to another week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you're not following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Paytm Money. Do definitely check out our social media accounts. We've been doing some really cool stuff over there. There are a bunch of recommendations from hosts. I think you'll really enjoy the content that we're putting out there. And make sure you don't miss your favorite shows. Cyrus Says has been putting out some great stuff, as is the Pragati podcast. All About Policy has been doing some really, really fun stuff. The guys at Football Shitball and Football Twaddle are continuing to release episodes as well, which are really interesting. Besa Anupam's been having like guest after guest, just killing it. Pulia Basi's been doing so well. Postcards from Nowhere. All these shows are really, really doing well and really, really putting out great stuff. Appreciate really the efforts that the hosts are putting in the lockdown, and I hope you guys are enjoying this stuff. And with that, let's continue with your show.
And we're back. My name is Abbas. I'm still here with Vinamr, Ritika, and Utsav. Utsav has his own podcast called Postcards from Nowhere. Postcards. Quite a mouthful.
Yes.
But this is the section where we talk about travel in pop culture. The road movie is one of my favorite genres in a film. But let's set the ball rolling. You guys want to
Wait,
talk
are you talking
about
about On the Road by Jack Kerouac or The Road?
No, that's a book. No, he's talking
but
No,
it
it's
also
a-
is a movie as well.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
road movies are like a genre unto themselves. Like Jab We
Oh, I
Met
see,
is
I
a
see what
road
you mean,
movie
yeah.
because you're
Yeah.
traveling from place to place with characters.
Yeah.
So you guys remember the first time you saw something in a movie or a TV show, you read something, a place, and you would want to go there. Like, what are your memories?
तुझे पता है the first place that I thought of as a teenager was Goa because दिल चाहता है.
Fair point.
Right. Did you actually do that? Did you go to that place?
I went there with my family.
But you went to you clicked Dil Chahta Hai pose pictures with your family.
How do you think I'll click दिल चाहता है post picture?
No, so
with my
it's not hard,
family?
then mom decided.
And the funny part is that I didn't even go with my mother and father. I went with my father, an uncle, and an auntie, and the uncle and auntie were fighting.
Oh.
So I was stuck in the middle of them and I had to stay with them, which is like the
Yeah,
weirdest
very-
part.
Wow.
Imagine that pose with uncle and auntie and me.
But
Would have
fighting.
been, but fighting.
Fighting over it.
Seems like so not like Psytrance, which is what Goa is known for.
Oh.
But yeah,
What about
I've been
you,
to
Vinamr?
Goa with like 3 times only with my family as well, so I completely carry on that. It's just
So, Abbas, are we the only ones who have not gone to the whole family? I'm starting to feel like an outcast now.
Yeah, I went there last month, guys, without family.
Yeah.
It was amazing. But the one place that sticks out, and this is a place I still haven't gone to. I don't know how many of you have seen the film In Bruges. It stars Colin Farrell and
I've seen
Gleeson.
that, yeah.
And Bruges is a place in Amsterdam, if I'm not wrong. Utsav, have you heard about this? Have you been there?
I'm too poor to go to Western Europe, so no idea.
So Bruges was a place. It's so beautifully shot in the film. The film is a gangster film, but it's so beautifully shot that the moment I saw that place, I would have wanted to go there. The other place that I've always wanted to go, I've only seen it in movies and read about them, is the Vatican.
Oh, yeah.
Because it is so culturally rich and religiously
and so much mystery behind it.
Mystery behind it, yeah. So that was one a particular place that I wanted to go. What about you guys? Something you read? Something? Give me something.
It's very strange, but I've been to the Vatican as well. But the one thing that came to my mind when you said that is the beach from Jajantram Mamantram.
Okay, I haven't seen that film.
This is nostalgic.
Yeah, that's like the Javed Jafri film, and it's Javed Jafri.
Gulliver Travels.
The shitty Indian version of that. So bachpan mein I saw that, I was like, oh shit, like this beach looks divine as hell. Like I want to be there, because apparently like Javed Jafri does like exercises on the beach when he gets there or something like that.
Push-ups and stuff.
So to me it seemed like a very divine. Like that was my first idea of what a beach is. Right? It's like. It's isolated. There's no one there. It's a sunset sun. It's a permanent sunset sun. And
then he went to Juhu Beach and
then all his ideas about a beach were ruined.
Ruined completely. Ab main nahi jaunga beach kabhi.
Okay, let me tell you a very funny story about Juhu Beach. I went with my friend to Juhu Beach. This girl is from Delhi.
Good. We are very proud of you.
Yes. This girl is from Delhi, okay? And she comes to Bombay for the first time. I take her to Juhu Beach of all the places. And we're walking on the shore. And both of us are in that very romantic mood. I'm like, wow, the beach. The birds are flying in the sky. Ye wo sab baat kar rahe. Suddenly she's like, dude, this is so beautiful. And then she's like, what are those people doing in the distance? And then we see that we're walking on poop. And then we see that people are shitting.
Crap.
This took a very weird I expect you were making out or something.
No, that would not have cheesed us out because we would be used to it.
Yeah, true,
but like people shitting and us walking on it is...
I think I'll do a much nicer example now. So I was reading this book by Bruce Chatwin called In Patagonia. Okay, and it completely blew my mind, like the way he's described Patagonia. And this was much before, like a while back, right? A few decades ago. Right, and I really wanted to go there. So about a few years ago, I saved up a lot of money, and I went to Patagonia. Okay, and it genuinely blew my mind. It's genuinely such a beautiful place, you know. And I remember I was down towards the south of Argentina, that's Patagonian region, and I was walking on. I was doing a glacier trek there, right? And
wait, what's a It's climbing a glacier?
It's literally like climbing a glacier, but a lot of it is so permanently frozen that you can literally put your axe into it and nothing would happen.
But doesn't the whole continent have like a lot of temperate weather?
So the thing is, Argentina is a very country which actually spans a fair amount of latitude.
Okay. I see.
Right, so when you go to the northern parts, it's actually fairly temperate, but as you go to the tip, it gets closer to Antarctica. Right, so it's start becoming very, very cold. Like the southernmost tip of the world is a city called Ushuaia, right? People only go there because it's the southernmost tip of the world, right? But it also is a place where you can sort of go back to Patagonia, and and I could see that there was gradation of ice's color in different blue, and the kind of blue would tell you how old this ice is, because as the water keeps freezing together, the molecules get packed more closely, and the way it reflects light gives you the blue color. So you could say that this is X million years old. This is maybe a new ice is like some 10,000 years old or something. And at the same time, it was very unfortunate to see that our guides were telling us that how quickly this ice is also breaking apart because of climate change. Right? So it's like you suddenly are seeing that, the water which has been frozen for thousands of years is now actually in the sea. So it was amazing as well as heartbreaking at the same time, but it totally lived up to the book.
And you didn't even see anyone shitting in the corner.
No one was shitting. No. You would have frozen your butt off by now. Right? So people are smart that way.
I think we should actually change the temperature of the water in Bombay.
So I love it when fictional places, like for example, the Lord of the Rings films were shot in New Zealand, right? And the Hobbit, sorry, the place where the hobbits live, the Shire, which when J.R.R. Tolkien wrote the book, it was his idea of the English countryside, right? But they actually shot it in New Zealand so beautifully that now they have preserved the sets, and now it's a tourist destination for people to go there and see the place as if it's actually the Shire, right?
Yeah.
So I love places, like I love that aspect of solidifying a fictional place into a real place. And you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. My sister got admitted to this university. It's called the University of Durham. It's in the northern part of UK, right near the Scottish border. Her college is the place where Harry Potter was shot at. Not the big citadel, the one that you see when they're in the boats getting towards Hogwarts. Not that one, but the one where they play Quidditch when they have early Quidditch lessons.
The
and
grounds.
Stuff. Yeah. So that's where they have a bed and breakfast within the college, and that's where they have all their matriculation ceremonies as well. The college is something like it's in the middle of this isolated town called Durham, right? They don't have a spectacular football team or anything. Very quiet, lots of beautiful rivers and stuff. Doesn't feel like the metropolitan London that everyone seems to associate the UK with, right? And in the college campus, what's also really interesting is they have all the Harry Potter insignia, but they also have the college insignia. So kids are wearing a mixture of like one of their houses is like Collingwood. So Collingwood College, but also Gryffindor. So they've sort of fused the two together.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was like, shit, man. I went to school in Boston, and all we had was a shitty 1 mile strip of academy, not even the Las Vegas strip. You have horses and I don't know, it was crazy.
But also at the beginning you were talking about how we shouldn't take lessons from Ranveer Kapoor. I was just thinking so in Hollywood, like I said, there is the tradition of the road movie, right?
Right.
In Bollywood films, that has never been our case because we just shot our songs abroad.
Right? Correct.
Idea was कि picture चाहे कितने भी hero कितना भी गरीब हो, in his dream sequence he can go to the most
Switzerland,
the most picturesque locales.
Yeah, though I think there's one movie which I think is sort of the road movie is Highway.
Okay.
Yeah, with Alia Bhatt. So I don't know if you guys have seen Highway or not. So I think it was one of the better films we've come out with.
For sure.
And I think it also explores a lot of things about Alia's past and what she's going through, right from the abuse she went through with her uncle and so on. And that was actually a good road film because I think it also shows the evolution of her character through the movie.
Right.
And how she goes from a very scared kind of a person to a very level-headed, very strong-willed girl because of... And she realizes that whatever happened in her life was not right to begin with, right? From what happened with her uncle to her partner who didn't treat her fairly.
Right.
And that was one of the road movies, I would say. So yeah, okay, sometimes Bollywood is fine, but mostly not.
Right.
There's also this, I'm not going to choose a movie, but there's a song by Leonard Cohen called Take This Waltz.
Take This what?
It's called Take This Waltz.
Waltz, okay.
Yeah, it's a beautiful song.
Did you hear Swords?
I kind of
WALTZ. Waltz.
Sorry.
What is
It's a dance
the
form.
story behind the song?
Leonard Cohen's aggressive years. But yeah, why is the song? I was going to say, why is the sword so special?
The song is special because it actually, the reason why I love the song is because it paints a picture of Vienna. And because of this song, because it's so romantic and it's so, I want to go to Vienna. And it's one of my, I think because of the song I've painted my own fantasy. Of course, कोई हो या ना हो, मैं जाके waltz तो करने वाली हूँ.
But वो flood हो रहा है, आपको पता है ना?
हाँ, वो हो रहा है, पता है. But it's just, so that song again made me want to travel to Vienna. So that's...
We got movies, we got books,
and we got a song,
any TV,
and a documentary,
anything on a television show that you saw that made you wanna travel or go somewhere.
Kalki's Great Expectations, the one that I recommended, and I actually did. So on my birthdays, I gifted myself a trip last year. Because Kalki's Great Expedition, is with her father, and she goes to different places in the Northeast. But I because I was searching for places in the Northeast, I serendipitously stumbled on this place called Zero Valley.
Oh, yeah.
In Arunachal.
Yes.
So on my birthday, I was like, I don't want anybody around me. So I went alone and I spent 10 days in Arunachal.
Utsav just saluted Ritika.
Solo women travel are the best people.
So yeah, that was, that Northeast I fell in love with all thanks to that show. Kalki's Great Expedition.
Okay, so one TV thing which I think someone I have really, really admired for a very long time is Anthony Bourdain.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And Paths Unknown was the series he was working on before
He passed away,
passed away.
Yeah, he had a couple of seasons,
he had a few
right, on
seasons
Netflix,
before that, right? And I think that probably comes closest to my idea of immersing in a culture and traveling.
Right. That's what I was just going to ask. Anthony Bourdain's the objective wasn't to go again to these famous
correct.
places where
Like I was seeing an episode in Greece, and he was actually talking to people about how the entire economic crisis, which has just really messed up the Greek economy, has impacted their lives. And I think that is the kind of travel I really like doing, and I've done in the past. Is to really immerse in the lives and the stories of those people, which is really the idea behind the podcast as well.
Right.
Is to talk about the stories of the people you meet and what you experience with them or through them. And I think he's been a very big influence in the ways I've been thinking about travel. So yes.
But as someone, like you mentioned before we started recording, you're not someone who watches every movie or is very up to date with television.
True.
So what's the starting point for you to select a place of wanting to go there?
Okay, so it's a couple of things. So I'm very inherently interested in war and conflict.
Okay.
So I typically do choose to go to places which have a lot of war. So I've been to Cambodia,
Is there
Vietnam,
a reason
Bosnia.
behind that?
No, I mean, it's something that I think that there is no better description of the entire spectrum of the human condition than a war.
So you've been to Warsaw and Poland as well?
No, as I said, that in my book that comes as Western Europe, so not yet. But I've been to Cambodia, I've been to Vietnam. I consider China-controlled Tibet as a war zone. I've been to Bosnia.
Are these places? Are you more interested in the post-war effects of that place, or even a place in conflict right now you would want to?
So in conflict, I don't think I have the courage to go.
Yeah,
I'm being honest, I don't have the courage to go in conflict.
Yeah.
But I think the post-conflict, like I was just on Paperback yesterday, and I was talking
another
about
podcast that Utsav
has just subtly plugged, and I was talking about my master's thesis, which was about anti-war art in Cambodia after the Pol Pot regime. And I was in Cambodia, I went to the killing fields, I went to the museums and saw that what is the kind of art.
That was also a very subtle way of you saying कि masters किया है, thesis
किया है. अरे मैंने MBA भी किया है.
So what was the thesis about?
So it was about anti-war art in Cambodia and the people who survived the Pol Pot regime. But two of these painters who actually survived the entire thing.
Right.
And they painted. So they painted in two different motives. One was documenting the wrongs which have been done.
Right.
At the same time hoping for an ideal world or a better world for the future generations.
Right.
And I was trying to use sort of semiotics to understand that what are the kind of tropes there are and what are the kind of use of colors, use of symbols and so on and so forth. And what I really came out of it was the idea of cultural memory or national memory is what all power struggle is about. Right? And the idea of what Pol Pot was trying to do was reimagine Cambodia completely. Right? What Mao did. Right? And it's happening across the world.
What I think most dictators want.
Want. And I'm hoping the people have read between the lines of what I'm trying to say.
I was actually going to frame my next question about that. But,
I think my political leanings are very, very apparent.
Sure. I think everybody who likes good things and traveling, their political leanings would
tend to be on
a particular scale.
side. Yeah.
Very progressive.
Yeah. So I think that's what I got out of it, and I think it also gave me a very interesting perspective of looking at countries then, right, and how I sort of view a country versus what it is really struggling for. What national memory does it want to erase or rework into the consciousness? It becomes a very interesting way to look at a country.
No, and I think another place, because of what you're saying, I remember that McLeodganj is a place where you will find a lot of Tibetan refugees.
Of course.
And I was living in a hostel called Tibet World, where I found so now this is an ulta process, where I went to a place and I found something that I was like, whoa, this is fascinating. So there's this book that I found, it's a thin book called Tibetan Folk Tales, where it's a love story of how Tibetan tea was made. It's about this, the sugar and the milk, how there were these two lovers who were in love with each other but on two different sides of Tibet, and it was divided, and how they became part of the soil, grew as sugar, and like the ingredients of the Tibetan tea and came together as the Tibetan tea.
Oh wow!
So that's
that is metaphorical at another level.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Yeah, so it was a very ulta process for me when I went there. And again, I spoke to a few Tibetan refugees, and the way they feel very homeless in their own, spaces.
Oh yeah, trust me. I went to China-controlled Tibet. It's a complete mess. But just one thing on what you just mentioned about, I think one big thing about travel which I realized over time is the difference between finding and seeking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And when you go to a place that this is what I want to do, you are finding it.
Yeah.
Right? Or rather, I do seeking it, I would say. But sometimes when you stumble upon things, you end up finding things.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's exactly a good reflection of who you become as a person as you get new experiences, right? When you are saying that, I want to do this, you are just seeking it. But if you're willing to be open to influences, you find so much things about yourself, about people around you, about things, and that makes it a much, much richer experience.
Right.
Yeah.
The first 4 years of my high school, I exclusively went to seek all kinds of paraphernalia and drugs all around India.
Okay.
I hope I can say this on the podcast.
It's out there.
I just realized that. So went to Hampi, which is Krishna Deva Raya's capital. Read about it. Tenali Raman ki kahani वगैरह पढ़ी, right? And then all of a sudden I come to Hampi. Hampi is divided into two parts. One part is all the nice megalithic monuments, right? The great stone structures which look like they're in the Flintstones, like that sort of stuff. In the middle is the river, right? On the right side of the river is Anangedi. This place which is basically, it's all hippies. वो सिर्फ वहाँ पे सिर्फ Israeli आते हैं, right? It's primarily hippies, right? So all architecture, art, all the nice tourists, the temples is one side. On the other side of the river is hippies. You get all kinds of stuff there, right? So हम लोग Hampi आए, यार history देखेंगे, let's get immersed in the whole idea of like the great culture of our land. We're like, bro, वहाँ पे acid मिलता है.
क्योंकि literally हम इधर जा रहे हैं. History तो कहीं नहीं जा रही है, लेकिन हम इधर जा रहे हैं.
So we went there and we did all of these things, and we started then actually interacting with the populace, right? We didn't expect. We went there for the history, found the drugs, and then also found the populace who were selling us more drugs, right? And this sort of theme followed me in Vattakanal and Kodaikanal. It followed me in Gokarna. It also followed me when I went up in the hills. Then it followed me in LA, which is, like a weird place. But over there also I found like, I was seeking the debauchery and excesses of like, Hunter S. Thompson and the 70s journalist style, right? That sort of idea of drugs, sex and rock and roll. Wherever you like, what you said about, right? If you look for like something like that, you actually end up finding it. So I was not open to any of the other things that these cities had to offer because I had one single thing in mind. Let's get up. So I'm really looking forward to having like an open mind now.
Abbas knows where he wants to go next.
I'll just wrap up with two quick questions. One is about, and I know you've done a simplified episode about travel. Specifically.
2 episodes on budget travel.
But if you had to just give like 3 takeaways on budget-wise, how does one plan their travel?
Okay.
And the second being, there is a trend now to go to places which will get you good Instagram pictures, right?
Of course.
So how does one journal their travel if they have to?
Sure.
Without seeming pretentious.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on the first bit, top 3 tips for budget travel. Eat local food. Local food will always be the cheapest as compared to any other cuisine you will find in that place.
Right.
Second, try and not go to too many places in a country because the internal travel adds to the cost.
Yeah.
Right? And the third tip is go with an open mind. I think that is probably should be the first tip. Go with an open mind and be willing to embrace things you see there.
Right.
And even if you're judging them, try and judge it from the lens of that culture and the lens of your own culture.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right? Because every culture has a different
I think
take on
that
things.
point is very important for Indian tourists.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, because we tend to find our own cabal of people and just be in that same
Correct.
same group. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and
how does one journal or how does one?
Yeah. So I mean, see, you know, there are apps today which will tell you that this is a good spot for an Instagram picture, right? But the point is that that kind of travel will never be memorable for you,
Right.
for the simple reason that it will not imprint a unique memory in your head.
Right.
It will imprint a memory which is mass produced already,
Yeah.
right? So that way, I would say you could pick up something like one of the things which I mentioned earlier also. If you really like architecture, just take a pen and a paper and start sketching it. The amount of detailing you will notice is something you'll never notice in a picture, right? Because you have to look at it 100 times to be able to sketch it correctly, right? If if you go to a place and you feel a certain emotion, just pen out an emotion, because even if you read it 10 years later, you will remember exactly what you were feeling that point in time. And that's what a picture can't give you.
Right. So you have an Instagram page called Why We Travel 42.
Yeah, so my pictures are... so if you look at my thing, I think Instagram is probably one of the worst mediums for me as a person because my pictures are shit. And but what I do is I write a lot of text around those pictures to give them a lot of context. I think to me, writing is a strength. Pictures is not. But unfortunately, that's not how social media works. So I have stuck to Instagram. But it's a great way to actually interact with listeners. I got a lot of feedback on my show. And... it's Instagram stories helps because that's where I can use text and pictures together. I don't have to rely only on pictures, right? And if you look at my stories, most of them are very text heavy stories. But they do get a fair amount of traction. So
All right, cool. On that note, we shall wrap up this episode. Once again, Utsav's show is called Postcards from Nowhere. And new episodes are out every Thursday. So check it out. Also check out, like I said, his episodes on Simplified, episode 453 on Cyrus Says. And while you're at it, keep listening to IVM Likes as well. Me, Rutika, and hopefully Vinamra will be back very soon. You'll tell us more spots where to get...
Okay, absolutely. I have a whole forum of
He can do a whole
stuff,
podcast on it.
I know,
I have with Vice.
Make friends with Hamilton Morris. Yeah, that's my plan.
You can follow us on social media as well. My Twitter handle is @AbbasMomin. I am AbbasMomin88 on Instagram. Vinamr, where can one follow you?
People can follow me on Instagram at Vinamr Kasana, VINAMRE, and everywhere else I have the same name.
You also do a podcast on your own. You want to tell us about it?
Yes. So my podcast is called The Vinamr Kasana Show. It's just me documenting the most articulate voices in India that I can find and get them to come inside the studio when no one is watching.
Yeah, I have been on one of the episodes, guys. Best episode of his podcast. He'll agree to it. Yes. Only because he nodded. You did not see it. He nodded in a yes. Rutika, where can one find you on social media?
You can't find me on Twitter. I'm not active on Twitter, even though the account is still there, so don't add me on Twitter. But you can follow me on Instagram. Don't send me creepy messages on Instagram. My Instagram handle is That Girl Inside the Library.
You know, not asking them to send creepies
is an invitation
to send you creepy messages.
But I think her point is valid simply because no matter what she does, she will get creepy messages.
That is true.
So she can just put disclaimer, maybe one person will get dissuaded.
And Utsav, where can one follow you?
So you can follow me on Instagram on YBTravel42 and on Twitter at Utsav Memoria.
All right, and just listen to any IVM podcast. Utsav will most probably be on.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool. That was our show. We will see you next week with a new bunch of recommendations and some new things to talk about. Till then, bye-bye.
Beta, did you know 79% of all scientists in NASA are Indian only?
देखो, इंडिया में टैक्स सिर्फ मिडिल क्लास भरती है. Everyone is just enjoying free यार.
आजकल के youngsters are only interested in partying and enjoying. उनको देश की पड़ी ही नहीं है.
बेटा तुम बस शादी कर लो, उसके बाद तो you can enjoy life like anything.
I will tell you what this country needs. This country needs 15 years of dictatorship. That is the only way to become a superpower. See the Chinese, how much they've progressed.
सुनो, तुमने ये WhatsApp forward देखा?
So what's common between all of these statements?
They're all absolutely rubbish.
Fake WhatsApp forwards that spread like wildfire.
And statements that defy any logic.
We are here to debunk them all.
We're your family WhatsApp group's worst nightmare. We're what happens when you read a book.
Basically, we're just a bunch of guys who want to cut through the bullshit of everyone saying this, how it won't be true.
So that the next time someone confidently squeezes out some WhatsApp or Twitter BS, you can look them dead in the eye and go, Uncle, please sit.
So join me, Joel.
And me, Tushar.
Every Mondays for a fresh new episode of Uncle, Please Sit.
Entertainment is like food for the brain. It's a window to culture and a great way to understand the world around us. The internet has changed what it means to be an entertainer, creating new storytellers with millions of fans. It has spawned a new breed, the story sellers, those behind the scenes creating the business for this ecosystem. They work with brands, platforms and channels who are keen to capitalize on an audience hungrier than ever for more stories. I'm Vineet Kanabar, and I have a ringside view to how stories are told and sold. On my show, I bring you creators, artists, executives, and marketers for a freewheeling conversation around the business of entertainment. Tune in to Storytellers and Story Sellers for personal stories, analysis, and criticism every Thursdays as I talk to the brightest minds telling or selling great stories today.